Hello, everybody. As you can see, I got a lot done. I got profit done last night. I wasn't. I was doing this during the studio. I wasn't on the show, um, but I was working on it. And then after the show was over, um, I kept working on this. I popped a movie in, and I was working on it. And what I did was like when I got profit done, I was really looking at this and see I was really curious because, like, okay, let me clean off my nib and I'll explain this to you. So you can see how I've got Prophet up in the upper right hand corner pretty much, and I got him where he's like diving off panel into panel, and he's diving into the melee of the bad guys with all the swords and spears. And okay, when you do drawings, okay, if you have if I learned this in school and they do when you do architecture drawings, when you do architectural drawings, you want your thick lines of the building at the bottom so that the drawing looks stable, so the building looks stable. If you have all of your hard lines and thick lines at the top, psychologically, visually, it looks unstable. So you wouldn't want to draw. So if you're doing a drawing of a building and doing a presentation, you wouldn't have your thick lines at the top because the people looking at the image are going to think, oh, this is an unstable building. So you'd put all your lines, thick lines, in the bottom. Same thing goes here. I'm looking at this, and right now, all your thick lines are all of your like darks are up here. Okay, and I was thinking, okay, what if I just put all the details in, put the wood grain in, but don't make this silhouettes. Okay, it's going to visually make the drawing look unstable. Okay, so I posted the image and sent it to Marcus, and I said, should I have these just as outlines with wood grain, or should I make them silhouettes? And he thinks yes, make them silhouettes, so that way you it, it that way you have a dark base at the bottom. So that's why I'm doing it. So I am going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just do the spears, the shafts, then do the tips. I won't do them as silhouettes, and we'll see how it turns out. If I then decide to just make it all silhouette, I'll make it all silhouette. Same thing with the swords. I'm going to go just doing the outlines of the swords, and then if I have to, just darken them in. But I'm not going to just break out my rapidio, my disposable rapidios, and the ruler and just put the lines in and make them black. I'm still going to stipple them. So that way, and the reason why I'm going to do that is so because he's completely stippled, it's going to create a sense of, it's going to be a gestalt. A gestalt is when you have elements that work together. Okay, so that's why I'm going to be continuing the stippling down here, is so that the drawing has a gestalt to it. So okay, but yeah, I had a fun. Even though I wasn't on the stream, I had a good time. After Dan got off the stream, he had to take his son to a party. Um, they got into a very heated debate about colorists. And how I look at it, move this up so you can see. Here's my thing: is that they're going like good colorists versus bad colorists. And I look at it this way, as it's been noted, how Dustin Nguyen, he went off on Marvel, and how like basically it's like with what they pay and a page rate and how much work goes into it, essentially he's working for minimum wage. Okay. Well, if the penciler is being given page rates that are equivalent to minimum wage, imagine what the colorist is making. Much less. And also, you look at it as if they're paying, if Marvel and DC were the top the big names in the industry, if they are paying such low pencil rate, that would also explain why so many artists are doing less and less line work with drawing images. Okay, and I look at it also, and I brought this up before. I'll bring it up again. When they did an issue, there was the first issue of Justice League, and it was Batman leading a team basically of villains. Okay, Lobo, it did it, Killer Frost. Then it had like Vixen and uh, the Atom, not the Ray Palmer Atom, the other Atom guy, the Asian guy kid. And how I was viewing it was, or I should say, if you look at the very first issue, Joe Prado, he was inking it over Ivan Rios. He put so much work into doing these storm clouds in the distance, and he posted it on Facebook. And when I saw that, I was like, "Oh, that is awesome! Look at all that line work." And so when I picked up the book after I got home, the first thing it is I opened it up and I look at it, and here what the colorist did is the colorist pretty much erased all of his delicate line work and replaced it with computer coloring. And I suspect that more and more artists are discovering that that's what colorists are doing. So you think about it, if I have a low page rate and I already know that the colorist is going to go over my pencil lines, why? It's one of those where it's like, why do all this rendering for the face and the body if the colorist is just going to erase it? So it made sense. It makes sense to me that the penciler is doing less work and be like having the attitude of just let the colorist figure it out. I'll just do what I need to do to get paid. Let the colorist figure it out. So I can see that as one of the reasons why um, we're seeing what we're seeing in the industry with colorists. Now, when colorists are doing a good job, what they're doing is they're accenting or they're enhancing the pencil and ink work. So, and you do see that in some books. Um, I look also as like perfect examples of books that just came out, the Herculoids. Craig Rousseau's doing it, and Craig Rousseau has a very like animated, cartoonish style to begin with. But in my opinion, I was looking at it. It looks like he's doing less and less with the imaging. The example I'll give you is Igo. All he was doing was basically a base outline of Igo. He wasn't really putting any details into Igo and just letting the colorists do all the work. Now, again, I don't know what his page rate is for working with Dynamite. I'm sure it's not as high as if it's working for Marvel or DC. Uh, but you look at it and then you see how he's, like I said, he's he's doing what he has to do to get the job done, to do a good job. But at the same time, also you can tell where he's really putting putting as little work as possible in and letting the colorists figure it out. So that's where I stand on that when it comes to compute with colors these days. So I mean, because there are exceptions to that rule, but as a whole, that's how I'm seeing what's going on. So, and one thing I also thought about doing with these like the swords is instead of going along just like stippling it, what I thought I might do, and I'm not going to do it while I'm doing the stream, is what I'm going to do because I have to lay it flat. What I'll do is I'll take the ruler, set it down, and then take my repeating, just do little lines as if I'm stippling, and then see how that looks. And then when I'm done, maybe then go in and put some dots in so it has that look and feel of it being stippled when it's not. We'll see how it goes. What's the worst case scenario? I black it out. I make it a silhouette. So I mean, hey, you don't know till you try. So, and sometimes that's what you gotta do. Is just so you could go in, you're like, fuck it, do it. Just get the job done, and not worry about how it's gonna look. Because 9 times out of 10, when you're having to crank something out and you got a deadline, it's where a lot of times you stop thinking and just start doing, and it's where you get your best results. I know I myself, I'm a type of person, uh, when I'm having to get instruction, just reading it and having it explained to me, I don't necessarily get it. I need to see how it's actually being applied, and I need to do it myself and make mistakes, and from there I learn how to do it. So, but now, of course, having guidance while you're trying to figure it out, that is key. Is you gotta have the right guidance. So, but that's where you think about how, like I was talking about, like Dan Fraga with him doing Procreate. How I was looking at going, and I'm like, yeah, he's very detail oriented. How he present, how he explains how he's doing stuff using Procreate, and because he's actually using it for like doing the drawing itself, I can actually see how he's doing it to understand how to do it myself in the future. That's like I said. That's the reason why I'd love if Dan could do uh, a series of tutorial videos showing how he does the work. Uh, and that, if you think about it, a lot of these people do YouTube videos. When it comes to instruction, those videos, instructional videos, they get a lot of views. So if he actually were to have like a separate channel or a sub channel on his channel, giving you advice on how and giving you instruction on how to use the tools on the program, you'll learn a lot faster because you're seeing, because like if you're doing a comic book and he's showing you how to do it, and he's doing it much more of an instructional level instead of entertainment, I think he'll do much better than the videos that are out there for using Procreate. I don't think a lot of videos out in Procreate or on Procreate or on YouTube are very good. So, but one thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is with doing 365 days of comic books, signed books. We're hitting the G's right now. We're doing Generation X, and I gotta reminds me I gotta post my video for I post my picture on X for the next book that's signed, and I'm not going to do, even though we're in the G's and I've got Marvel books, Marvel GI Joe, Marvel Star Wars. I'm not going to include GI Joe or Star Wars at all. I thought about it, and what I'm going to do is in 2026, I will be posting all the GI Joes and all the Star Wars books that I have signed in my collection. So I think that would be a lot of fun. I really enjoy that, and I because I like Star Wars and GI Joe so much, I'll definitely be able to talk about them during my videos. So I don't have 365 issues between the two, but I do. It's over. It's over half a year, almost like 3/4 of a year. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add it all up, see where I have, like how many signatures I have, or how many books I have signed, and then from there, what I'll do is I'll look at, like, okay, let's say I've got 20 days short. Uh, we'll look at to fill up those last 20 days. I'll either probably do it at the beginning of the year as opposed to the end of the year. What I'll do is I'll post all my Tangent books that are signed by Tangent DC, or the amalgamation where there's a DC and Marvel. Where they did that thing. They did the event where they combined like Batman and Wolverine and had the Dark Claw. They combined Captain America and Superman. Those books, I'll have those books all signed, or those that are signed, I'll post them. So that's what I'm planning on doing for 2026. So, and then today, before I came in, I was watching John's Longbox. He does a Sunday read through, and he was doing Fantastic Four issue 262, where Reed Richards is standing trial and for saving Galactus's life. And it's funny, it's how like I never would have seen this if I was reading on my own, but listening to John, him doing the read through along with his analysis, it dawned on me that this whole Reed Richards being on trial, it had the look and feel of classic Star Trek. And we all know John Byrne is a huge Star Trek fan. And I also would also prompt me to think about this is because of Graham Nolan doing the landing party along with Aaron and Anna and Ron Garney. And just listening to having listened to those guys as they do their analysis and opinion each week, along with John doing his analysis of this issue. This issue is it's written like a classic Star Trek episode. And Reed Richards is really all he is. He's an avatar for Captain Kirk. And I was like, yeah. And this is a Star Trek episode. John Byrne never got at the time. He had never done Star Trek. Was not on his radar. I'd ever do maybe, or couldn't come to an agreement with uh, Marvel or DC because both of them have handled the license. So I'm thinking that because I remember he later on did Star Trek for IDW back in the early days of IDW, back when they had money. And I'm listening to that and I'm like, yeah, I think that's the reason why uh, he did this episode of Fantastic, this issue, I should say, the way he did was he did it as kind of like a Star Trek episode. So now this thing is, I really do like his Star Trek. It's not canon, but I'll tell you something. For me, it's like this comes damn close that it should be canon. He did 4 series for uh, IDW, and then collected it into a hardbound book. And the 4 issues they did, or the 4 series they did, was they did Assignment Earth. With Terry Garr, and I really like that episode. That's actually one of my favorite Star Trek episodes. Uh, I really wish that, and I think the way I understood it was Assignment Earth was done. It was the season finale of season 2, and I kind of got the sense that they did it as a proposal for doing another show for the network, and it was shot down. I really wish they had done it because that was one of those episodes where it was just really good. Same thing goes with Star Trek Enterprise when T'Pol's telling uh, Archer and Trip how Vulcans had visited Earth during the 1950s and no one had known about it. When at the end of that issue, what it is that the one Vulcan, he becomes infatuated with Earthlings, and he loves baseball, and he's infatuated. As he says, he goes this species has great potential, and I'm anxious to see them develop. And I looked at them. I was like, that also was done. That episode, in my opinion, was done almost like I would say almost like a quantum leap pitch. Not quantum leap where he's jumping from body to body, but think about it. You could have done it relatively cheap where he stays behind. You do a new series, basically and you have it where it's like it takes place in the 1950s, and each season would have been a decade. So at the end of season 1, you would have had the 50s. Then you would have had season 2, which was all the 60s. Season 3, the 70s. And you get what I'm saying. So I mean, you could have done like a 7 seasons of the show, which was 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 10,000s. Okay, it would have taken us all the way up to uh, present day America, and this is back in the early 2000s. So, and I would have liked that because at the same time, also remember in that episode, he befriends that kid who wants to go to college, and he just doesn't have the money. And the descendant of T'Pol, or the great grandmother of T'Pol, she uh, sells Velcro. It was like uh, Velcro was a commonly used fabric uh, in Vulcan ships, and she takes it to a patent art office, sells it to him, and she gives the money to the family so the son can go to college. And that would have been cool because you could have had it where it's like at the end of season two, like he's like that kid who's going off to college. You'd have where he stays in contact with the Vulcan, and let's say at the end of the '60s, beginning of the '70s, the kid finds out that he is a Vulcan, but he vows, "I will keep your secret." And basically, you would have where by the end of the season or the end of the show, the boy has passed away, and he kept his secret, or maybe it was handed down through his generation to his son's generation to his grandson's generation, that type of thing. It's like that one family knew was the only family on Earth that knew he was a Vulcan. And so when he dies, they hide his body. And so I always like that concept and possibility. So I can see where like you can see where I myself is like Assignment Earth would have been a neat show as a spin-off from Star Trek, but it would have been much cheaper because it would have been taking place completely on Earth, but you would have had the sci-fi elements with him being able to do things that a regular person can't do, with Terry Garr as like his human sidekick. And then, of course, you'd have Crew. The show was called Crew, Star Trek Crew, and basically followed number one from the original movie, or the Cage. It followed number one on her path through her through or in Star Trek and Starfleet. Again, very well drawn, uh, beautifully done, and he was really neat in how he did it. By her name was number one, but we never knew the name of her. We never knew her name. That was really cool. So, which is again where it's like when they did Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, they come out with what her name is, and it's like no, that was what made her so cool. Is we never knew her name. So, of course, can't have nice things because idiots that don't respect the properties will step on it. So, and then of course we had John Byrne did a uh, Leonard McCoy Frontier Doctor, which was kind of neat. It was like kind of connected. Like it didn't connect right after the original series, but it took place between the original series and the motion picture. In fact, the very end of it kind of like sets you up for like him returning to Earth uh, to be on the Enterprise for the motion picture. And then lastly, they did it was called Romulus, Pawns of War, which again John had a lot of had a lot of freedom because at that time we didn't know anything really about the Romulans, and at the time the Klingons were uh, just Mongolian looking guys with face paint. There wasn't didn't have the face ridges and whatnot that we know today. So now again it was good because it really went into Romulus and basically how they are. So and we still have not really ever had anybody really investigate the Romulans that made them a good a good platform or a good species for John to have fun with. And at the time, it was easy to say, "Oh, this is canon." It wasn't until after they started, like with Discovery and Strange New Worlds, that nope, can't have that as canon. So yeah, I really did like that. So okay, guys, I'm gonna keep working on this. You can see I'm having fun. Remember, next Friday, John's Long Box, he is launching issue number 2 of Heroic Tales. So, and it sounds like he's going to definitely spin Heroic Tales off into two books. You have one book, The Patriarch, and then the other uh, book will be uh, the second book, or I should say, yeah, this one book will be The Patriarch, and then they'll continue Heroic Tales. So, but tune in and chat and help him out. I believe he's launching on Michael Bancroft's channel. You know, Michael Bancroft, the ambassador of independent press, of independent comics. So, guys, I'm having a great day. I hope you guys have a great day. And remember, life is stressful, just as figuring out how I'm going to do this. So let's take a look at this before I go. Yeah, I kind of like that. Like I said, I'm going to do just the spears, see how it looks, and then maybe I'll do the swords silhouettes or not. I don't know. So maybe what I'll do is I'll finish the spear tips, send the image to Marcus, work on something else, and then come back to it. So we'll find out. So and just so guys, this up here, okay. Yep, you got it. It's a pencil. John Wick threw his pencil at Prophet, and Prophet's such a badass. He was able to just cock his head just a little bit. It bounced off the headpiece and blip, 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 flipping away. So, yep, I have everything going up again. Everything's being thrown at him, including John Wick's pencil. And Prophet's such a badass, he's able to defeat them all. So, yep, I'm having a great day. You have a great day. Remember, life is stressful. Just take it all one dot at a time.